Hey y'all! So for part one of the series, we're going over how prep will always be a challenge. That's kind of the concept I want to go over. It's going to be a shorter video just because it's not really that long to talk about, but it's something that I think is super important because I get a lot of emails about this, which is kind of why it brought it up to my attention. I get a lot of either client requests or just comments on social media or whatever, and it's like, oh well, I know that if I work with you or I flexible diet, then it's gonna be so much easier to prep. Yes and no, the concept of getting stage lean is always going to be hard, right? Whether you're doing flexible dieting, you're doing some terrible overly rigid diet for no reason, you have, any diet you choose, you're going to be in caloric restriction, you're going to be doing cardio, and you're going to be getting to body fat levels that just honestly don't feel that good. No matter how much I eat coming into it or how little cardio I do, the fact of the matter is I show up at a certain body fat percentage on stage every time, right, when I look good. And it just doesn't feel good. Like, my body doesn't want to be there. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people who are naturally a lot leaner than others. You know, you just kind of carry around less body fat and you feel fine there. There's other people who carry around more body fat, and then there's people who kind of carry around a moderate. I feel like I'm one of those people, but I'm a lot more comfortable at a weight and a body fat that's much higher than the stage body fat, right? There's kind of a continuum of where things feel good, things don't. But that's the reality of stepping on stage in a bikini for judges. So, there are people, and you'll see them online or you'll see them anywhere. They're talked about a lot, obviously, the people who can eat a ton, do very little cardio, and get stage ready. Of course, those are fun people to talk about. There's definitely those people, but those are hyper responders, and I wanted to make this because I want people to know that that is not everyone, okay? For the majority of people, you're going to have to diet, you're going to have to cut calories. And I've talked to people where they're like, oh, this is really low, and I'm like, okay, you have a few weeks left. That's kind of when you want to drop the hammer, not like 16 weeks out, right? So if you ever worked with me, or people who have worked with me, I'm pretty conservative. I want things to be going smoothly, to be decreasing, but I'm on the more conservative edge earlier in prep versus later when I'm really trying to pull things together, because I'd rather you be eating more, doing less cardio when you don't need to be, and then throwing it in when you do. Now, with that being said, there's a few caveats to my statements, right? And I don't want people to think like, oh my God, prep is this monster that Lauren's talking about. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be horrible, but I'm saying, like, if you're showing up, stage ready, especially if you're, on the leaner end, especially for those divisions, like, you're gonna feel kind of like shitty. But prep does not need to be hard just for the sake of being hard, right? So say you're somebody who did their work off season and you're eating a good amount, you're not doing really a lot of cardio, you're training hard, and then you hire someone, or you think you need to do this yourself, and you drop 1,200 calories right off the bat, 16 weeks out, do cardio every day, 45 minutes, and I think that notion is starting to fade away. I really hope, because I think there's a lot of information out nowadays. I'm sure people have made like 5 videos on this and I just haven't seen them, or just the idea that you don't need to do that, right? Just for the sake of saying like, I'm on a caloric restriction, because at some point you're gonna hit a plateau, right? Again, not everyone hits a plateau. There are very few people who don't, but there are those people. For the most part, if you drop something 16 weeks out, you're gonna have to drop again, right? So why would you plummet all the way down to something, those levels, whereas it'd be better just to get there maybe towards the end. Now, if you drop things at a more appropriate rate, you might not see the rapid weight loss or the rapid, drops in the first few weeks. But why do you need to see that before you're on stage, right? So that's kind of the first thing. It's gonna be hard, but it doesn't need to be harder than it should be. Final caveat is going to be, if you take care of things in the off season and do things right for years, you will probably make your prep easier. So if you take dedicated off seasons, right, where there's periods of time where you're not dieting, you don't do shows, 24/7, you eat calories, you're not trying to restrict calories, really, really low for an extended period of time to stay stage lean, relatively stage lean. But at the same end of the token, you're not, far out of striking distance. I really don't want to give numbers or percentages because that looks really different for everyone. I'd probably say most people who are watching this are figure bikini girls. Probably not like male bodybuilders aren't watching my videos, but maybe you are, I don't know. But look, for someone who's bigger, you know, you're gonna gain more. And even for females, like, you know, I'm 5'7", I might be talking to someone who's 5 foot. If I said gain 15 pounds, somebody who's 5 foot, that would look a lot different than it would look on me. So I don't really like to give, you know, numbers, percentages, but within striking distance, so that you're at a healthy body fat level, you're at a healthy amount of calories that you're eating, but you didn't gain 30 pounds in a week. So there's kind of the, you know, that balance again. But if you've taken care of yourself in the off season, you've actually had time off to recover, let your hormones recover, let your hunger recover, and you kind of feel normal, then you can put yourself in a better place to prep. Think about it. If you're eating more and have less body fat, then it's going to be a better place to start, right? But at the same time, still, at least for me, this could be different for other people, but at least for me, every single time that I've gotten down to that stage condition, it still feels the same way, no matter how I got there. Now, from a health perspective, it might be better to keep calories higher, just for your hormone sake and your sanity. So those are definitely, that's like a different discussion. But as far as how it feels, I feel the same at 125 when I'm on stage as I do every single time, no matter what I do. So, but with all that being said, prep will be hard, but it doesn't need to be harder than it should be. And you can make it better through years of proper off-season, adding calories, taking time off, things like that, and maintaining relatively decent body fat levels. So hopefully this was helpful and not super rambly. I tried to make it not. And this was a kind of a short video, but I wanted to really hammer this point home because I see it a lot, and I just kind of wanted to address it, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks.